Okay, the final season of The War Within just got revealed, and it's going to be bringing a ginormous list of features and content. We had a chance to dive in there and see how everything's looking. We have a brand new zone and questline with us going to the ethereal homeworld of Koresh. We have an artifact Cloak that brings up power and allows us to jump into the brand new phase diving system. A new Renown track with tons of rewards, a brand new delve with its seasonal aspects, a new Mythic Plus dungeon pool with brand new deserter effect if someone leaves your key, new tier set bonuses with their bonuses being tied to hero talent trees, tons of class changes, Reworks, a brand new raid with its own Renown track, and way more. We've been testing and previewing a ton of this on the PTR, and we're here to give you a bit of a first look. So here's 20 new features coming with Season 3 of The War Within, Ghosts of Koresh. Starting off with the big one, we've got our first look at the new zone, Koresh. If you didn't know, Koresh is the shattered homeworld of the Ethereals, and if you've been playing World of Warcraft since Burning Crusade, you might remember running into them back in Netherstorm. Dimensius, the All-Devouring, who's pretty much a void god, destroyed the planet's world soul and turned it into a chaotic, unstable mess, and now we're there to pick up the pieces. The void is still leaking through the cracks, the terrain's busted and fractured, and there are warp zones where reality itself is falling apart. It's part desert, cosmic wasteland, and the vibe here is immense, and visually it's one of the coolest zones Blizzard has created in a while. From a design and thematic standpoint, I think Blizzard knocked it out of the park, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy. Now, of course, we have a brand new story and questline. Right off the bat, if you have any interest in the story at all in Warcraft, this one involves so many main characters, and it's easily the best storyline we've gotten so far in The War Within. Don't get me wrong, I love the exploration in Nurubar Palace in the first season, and then diving into the Undermine in Season 2, but this right here feels like true Warcraft stuff, and I couldn't be happier so far with what we've seen. The basic idea heading in there is that we're teaming up with Illyria and Locust Walker, who is just Illyria's void mentor. We're going to Koresh to stop the resurrection of Dimensius the All-Devouring, which is the void monster that destroyed the planet in the first place. Of course, if Dimensius comes back, that means bad things for the Ethereals, and Azeroth might be next. I highly recommend going through the lore walking event they just added in patch 11.1.7, as it'll get you up to date on pretty much everything you need to know to dive into this story. Venari and the Brokers are showing up here again, and they also brought Tazavesh with them, which is now our home base on Koresh. The story is very fast-paced, and remember, this is the final season of The War Within. Blizzard stated that this campaign connects directly to the next expansion, so if you care about the World Soul Saga, definitely listen up while you're going through this. Okay, let's be real though. I love WoW just as much as anyone, but sometimes you hit that point where you just need a breather because you feel a little burned out. Occasionally, I personally just want something fast, fun, and different just to mess around with for a little bit. So what I've been doing lately has been grabbing some of the best games on instant gaming for like half the price. Expedition 33, the Oblivion remaster, even Helldivers 2, all games that hit super hard where you just need a little bit of a break without committing to something so massive like an MMO. Also, there's not just older stuff, you even have upcoming titles like Rematch, Death Stranding 2, and a bunch of other games getting ready to be discounted. All of it was done within minutes, super easy, no sketchy sellers, just real keys delivered instantly, and you can pay however you want. So if you need a slight break from World of Warcraft to play some other games affordably, use the link down in the description below to check what's on sale, support the channel, and maybe even find your next side game until WoW heats up again for you. Not only that, something very interesting that's been going under the radar is that there might be a third Demon Hunter spec coming. None of this is officially confirmed, but a lot of these hints are stacking up. First, there's a data mined ability icon in the files that says Demon Hunter Metamorphosis Void, which pretty much is just a void-themed metamorphosis texture. In Koresh, they're also talking about making packs to harness the void using Illidari techniques. There's even a model floating around of a void-infused Demon Hunter form that looks like a cosmic version of Metamorphosis. A lot of players are speculating that this is how Blizzard teased augmentation previously, so maybe history could be repeating itself. Now, as you continue the campaign and reach certain milestones, you will unlock access to the legendary questline to unlock your brand new Reshi Rap's Cloak. This will give you a powerful effect tied to this cloak that will change depending on the role type you are currently playing. So no matter what, it's great for everybody. Not only that, you will also have the opportunity to socket it with whatever stat bonus you prefer, so if you like, you can customize it whenever you'd like. Once you've got the wraps, that's when you unlock phase diving. This is a new system where you literally shift your character from physical form into energy form and enter a layer of reality called untethered space. So basically, the ethereals are sending the player character on dives to scavenge unstable void energy, which is incredibly risky, and if your cloak breaks during this dive, lore-wise, it will erase you from existence, which is pretty nuts. From a gameplay side though, phase diving acts like an overlay system. You'll see new mobs, new objectives, new loot, but only when you're phased. There were also some elite rares that I got to fight while I was phased, and that was the only way I can see them, so I thought that was a really interesting note as well. You'll also get quests and events to power up your cloak with different materials like fibers. From a system standpoint, it's very original, and it feels like it really matters here, and it's not just something that's for show. It's directly tied to the power and the theme of the entire patch, and you'll be phase diving across a ton of different gameplay systems like delves, the raid, and open world events and quests, which is really cool. Of course, with this new zone, we will also get access to a brand new Renown progression called the Koresh Trust, and it's basically a coalition of ethereals and brokers trying to save what's left of their world. Kazavesh is our main hub for this Renown track, and that's where our reputation with them will start to build. Of course, we will gain standing through this by doing the campaign, side quests, events, the raid, your basic everyday stuff. For rewards, you have everything from profession recipes, cosmetic-themed gear, mounts, augment runes, and full item level upgrades. At Renown 3, you unlock warrants to go hunt down elite targets across the zone. At Renown 7, you start unlocking some gear. At Renown 10, you unlock their tabard. At 15 and 19, you get some mounts. And then at rank 20, you get the void-themed title of the Twilight Star. I think thematically, this entire patch is awesome so far, so I'm definitely going to try to get this bad boy up as soon as possible. Now, outside of just questing and grinding the Renown, Koresh has its own chunk of zone-specific content, and one of these systems is called the Eco Dome. If you remember Netherstorm back in Burning Crusade, they used to have these giant, weird glass domes with biomes inside, and Blizzard is bringing that back. But this time, we're the ones managing the biomes. The idea is that the brokers are trying to restore part of this broken planet and bring life back to everything here. They're building these ecodomes, and we're going to help them populate it with creatures. What they're doing is they're sending us to collect creatures from other zones across Azeroth, experimenting with which ones survive in the harsh system of this realm, and basically building a custom little ecosystem. The ecodome is also tied to Renown, zone progression, and there are rewards tied to successfully restoring biodiversity in the zone. From what I tested personally, they had me do a bunch of quests and go collect bees back in the Battle for Azeroth expansion and bring them back to populate a dome. It was a neat little quest chain that also at the end of it unlocked the weekly quest that you can then complete that can give you your typical rewards. Also, it is important to note that there are some pets tied to this, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, go for it. I didn't even scratch the surface on this system because they didn't have it completely out for us to test, but I could see how this can get awesome with how many animals they want us to actually go after, with there being like, I think 10 plus different creatures. Honestly, I think this is a nice little break from killing mobs and just spamming Mythic Plus all the time. It feels like a more relaxed and creative system, and kind of like a callback to old school RPG vibes, which I think is a nice addition here. In Koresh, you also have a brand new world boss called Reshinor the Untethered. This is a full-on void dragon with a big wingspan, glowing blue and purple all over his body, and the void energy is pulsing out every time he moves. Obviously, he fits the theme of Koresh and the aesthetic perfectly, and just showing up to his fight, it feels like a really cool boss moment. Just like the Godfather did back in Season 2, he will drop War-bound champion gear, which means if you have alternate characters, you're guaranteed automatically to get upgradable loot that you can put in your warbank to progress your account. Of course, with the new zone, we also have to talk about the brand new delve called the Archival Assault. Surprisingly, this one takes place inside of the Azure Vaults back in the Dragon Isles, and it's been overrun by ethereal pirates, rogue brokers, scavengers, and all those bad guys to steal the magic relics inside. I didn't get to experience it firsthand yet because we didn't get to unlock the progression of the Rishi wraps that far, but your cloak is supposed to play a big role inside of delves in this season, where there are these special phase diving gateways which are hidden throughout the delves that unlock challenge rooms, rare encounters, mini boss stuff, and it's exclusive to players who progress their cloak that far. Another thing I haven't seen personally is being able to see the ghost of echoes of friends where they died, what they were doing, how they were fighting, kind of like giving off that whole Dark Souls vibe, which I do think is interesting. Once again, when it comes to this delve, I think thematically it hits the season right on the head. It's punchy, it's not complicated and annoying and flooded with a bunch of objectives that are just going to frustrate you. It's very linear as a delve. It seems like they're also trying to make some sort of updates to Bran and his progression system. They have some interesting UI updates, so we'll have to keep you all updated on that in the nearby future. Next up, we also have the seasonal mount rewards. For raiders, your ahead of the curve mount for completing the raid on heroic difficulty has been data mined, and it's called the Royal Void Wing, a really nice full glowing void dragon, which I think is the best AOTC mount so far. For Mythic Plus, the brand new Keystone Master Mount is the Azure Void Flyer, like a giant bug-like creature that lives in Koresh. And next up, you have the Delver's Menace Skipper for defeating Princess Kaiveza on *2 difficulty, which is fantastic and the best Delver's mount so far. And then the big creme de la creme of mounts, which is the Mythic Raid Boss mount that drops off of Dimensius the Devourer, which is the Unbound Star Eater. And man, oh man, collectors are drooling over this one. Thematically, this season has been fantastic between the transmog, the mounts, and overall vibe. This might be the best looking patch of the entire War Within so far. Now, we briefly mentioned this earlier, but yes, we have to talk about the new challenge mode this season, which is Princess Kaiveza. If you don't remember this boss, she was originally a raid boss from Nurubar Palace, and Blizzard's bringing her back this time in a fully custom delve challenge mode. The goal is, if you don't know, is to beat her on the hardest difficulty possible, and you unlock that Delver's Menace Skipper mount that we were talking about. If this version is anything like her raid fight, it's probably going to end up being a really difficult but super fun fight. There was a lot of chaotic moments going on in my progression raid through the first season, so we're going to have to see how this ends up. Also, a new season means, of course, a brand new Mythic Plus dungeon pool. And like usual, we're getting a full rotation with a mix of cool returning dungeons. First up, we have a brand new dungeon coming this season in the pool called Eco Dome Aldani, which is a 3-boss instance, and we'll be able to test all of this out Tuesday, so stay tuned for more information. Tazavesh is coming back and being split into 2 dungeons with the Streets of Wonder and Solia's Gambit, and Blizzard's also bringing back Tazavesh as a full hard mode dungeon you can run outside of keys, which means it will be tuned like baseline Mythic Plus, but with extra mechanics and better rewards. On top of that, we had the player vote for dungeons to return, and those returning are Operation Floodgate, Priory of the Sacred Flame, Araka's City of Echoes, and the Dawnbreaker. And lastly, we have a fan favorite from everyone's favorite expansion, the Shadowlands, being Halls of Atonement from Revendreth. It's important to note that Blizzard said that they are doing a full update pass on those Season 1 dungeons where they're adjusting cast times, tightening up pacing, the mobs in there, and all that annoying stuff so they feel more aligned with Season 2's dungeons, which were fantastic. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below about this Mythic Plus pool. I'm dying to hear all of your thoughts. Now, when it comes to Mythic Plus, they're also adding a couple really big system updates this season that players have been asking for. First, they're adding a deserter penalty system for leavers in Mythic Plus. The details aren't fully locked in yet, but we do know it's being worked on behind the scenes and will likely roll out in a future PTR update for us to test out as soon as possible. Blizzard's also introducing a brand new Vote to Abandon system once a key has started, and the idea is that if it comes down to a group vote, you can decide whether you want to end the dungeon, where it will end with everyone getting no penalty and no one getting flag. So the idea is that if someone leaves without doing this dungeon vote, they will become a deserter in the group finder queue, which I assume is a nice little debuff of social stigma that says, hey, I brick keys, don't invite me, aka I'm a jackass, which will probably lead to no one inviting that person, which is interesting. They're also reworking respawns and runbacks inside of dungeons to make it easier to know where the spawn points are. Additionally, Mythic 0 dungeons will also be available on day 1 of the patch, compared to last season in the Undermine where they weren't available until a week after, which in my opinion was a big mistake. So it looks like Blizzard learned their lesson and made a good decision. Coming with Season 3, of course, they will give access to a brand new raid called the MANAFORGE Omega, and Blizzard is going all out. In the Zone of Koresh, there is a massive ethereal facility built to siphon raw cosmic energy to build into, surprise, surprise, bringing back Dimensius the All-Devouring. The idea is we're going to be fighting our way through the forges, the labs, and twisted storage vaults of the Shadow Guard faction. Now, I don't have any visuals on this just yet because the raid testing starts next week, Thursday, but thematically, you can see the bosses on screen here in the Dungeon Journal, and they look epic. I'm really happy Blizzard took a step back with the Undermine patch to, keep us grounded last season, but now I think we're all ready to do something very, very serious. Send us off on a cosmic-sized event because it looks like we have ourselves a serious threat now. They stated the final boss himself is the biggest boss they've ever made in World of Warcraft history, and to show you a little bit of a size comparison here, this is him next to Stormwind as well as Dalaran. This boss, when it comes to lore, is actually so powerful that if you get close enough to him, he just completely disintegrates you entirely, and that's the whole idea behind us getting those Reshi Wrap Cloaks. So we can get close enough through the mana filtration system and be able to get into that raid. So visually, thematically, and canonically, this raid looks like one of the most unique raids Blizzard has ever done, and it's set to be a hit as the final raid of the expansion to cap us off heading into midnight. Now, just like the Undermine raid, Blizzard is continuing the trend of giving this raid their own Renown system, and it looks like we got some updates. This track is called the MANAFORGE Vandals, and it's a 15-track rank progression system that definitely matters if you're raiding every single week. First off, quickly confirming, yes, it is tied to player power. You start off with simple things like vendors, you unlock an auctioneer, and then you start quickly earning your raid-specific perks like movement speed after killing trash, up to 15% damage and healing eventually, raid skips, trash being easier to kill, but beyond power, there are even cosmetics. You have 2 different mounts, a star savior title, void-based pets, augment runes that don't disappear on death, profession recipes, and once you hit max renown, you can even teleport to the raid from wherever you want. So yeah, it definitely feels like Blizzard's starting to feed in this Renown track thing when it comes to raiding. They're trying to give us more rewards and effects to continuously have us coming back and do that weekly progression to get through the raid at a higher difficulty, but giving us rewards along the way, which is fantastic. Now, coming with the raid, of course, in this new season, we have brand new round of class tier sets as well. It was just revealed that all the tier set models are here, and visually, I think a lot of these are either really, really hit, and then some of them are a bit of a miss. They really lean into that whole void-infused sort of arcane, scorched Koresh aesthetic, and then others look a tad bit plain. I would say the major highlights of these, though, in my opinion, have to be the mage with that awesome arcane hat, monk because that nice combination of monk and cosmic energy. I think with priest, they have one of their best tier sets they've had in the last 3 or 4 seasons. Shaman with that epic wolf helmet that really sets the tone for the entire set, and then of course warlock with that glowy purple effect on the mythic gear. I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's so many good sets here. I think either way, they nailed the vibe when it comes to the theme of the entire patch going into these tier sets. Every class looks like it belongs in Ghost of Koresh. It's dark, it's otherworldly, and very powerful. Now, when it comes to these tier sets and how they actually work, this season Blizzard is doing something very, very different. Instead of these set bonuses being tied to your spec like Arms, Fury, or Protection Warrior, now they are being tied to your hero talent tree. And what this means is that your tier set bonus will reinforce the identity of the hero talent path that you select. You're going to see key passives or abilities being empowered, new interactions based on that theme, and even more build expression depending on the style that you want to play. Don't worry though, because Blizzard said that they are still adding specific hooks where they're needed. Because, for example, you have Protection Warrior potentially using Colossus, you're still going to want to be able to get in there and make bonuses for that makes sense for protection with that tier set. So overall, the shift here is meant to make hero talents feel a lot more impactful, and they're not really just side trees here. It's a core part of our class power moving into this final patch, and it's the first time in WoW history that Blizzard is designing tier set bonuses around something other than our base spec, and it's very excited to see what this could bring in the future. Now, of course, one of the biggest additions to a brand new season is the very big class changes, updates, and reworks. Across the board, a lot of specs and classes are getting a bunch of changes, but in particular, Blizzard made it clear they wanted to touch up a few specs individually. Right off the bat, Protection Warriors, they're getting a full-blown talent tree rework, a revamped tree layout, streamlining the passing and replacing dead talent choices with new options. Frost Death Knights are pretty much getting a rework with their talent tree as well, with a ton of adjustments to some of their key talents and passive nodes, and a rework to Breath of Sindragosa that makes it an empower ability, which is great. Shadow Priest once again are getting another update in rework, and they're making substantial shifts when it comes to their AoE and single target damage profiles. Shadow Crash getting 2 charges, a bunch of different updates, brand new abilities that deal a ton of AoE damage, you name it. They got it, and it's definitely enough to shake up the meta. Of course, though, other specs like Feral Druids, Beast Mastery Hunters, Brewmaster Monks, and other specs in the game are getting massive updates and changes, and that means a lot of updates to tighten up those rotations and increase the performance pretty much across the board. Just remember, this is a very first pass of the updates so far in the PTR. Blizzard is going to be doing additional tuning over the next 5 to 6 weeks, so if your main spec isn't there yet, stay tuned. There's still plenty of time before the new season. For you PvP lovers out there, Blizzard is also adding a full-on world PvP island located on the edge of the zone, which functions like a PvPvE island. Over here, you're going to clash in dynamic events, captures, objectives, the whole 9 yards. To be completely upfront with you all, I couldn't find out where this was on the PTR, so maybe they haven't implemented it yet, so I will have to get some footage for you guys, but apparently this is supposed to be something that's really cool for you PvP lovers out there. The big takeaway is that Blizzard is trying to get people out in the open world to PvP, not just queue instance battlegrounds all the time, and if I'm gonna fight anywhere in PvP in the open world, I do like the idea of it being on the edge of Koresh. And then lastly, there are a couple things I want to touch up on before we wrap up. Blizzard did add some new gathering materials that spawn throughout the Koresh zone. On their own, they're basically junk, but what's cool is that you can actually trade them at specific vendors in the zone for more valuable crafting materials that are actively used right now. What's even more interesting though is that Blizzard just added a brand new potion called Umbra Essentia, and this thing lets anyone use the Night Elf racial Shadowmeld. So of course, if you're not a Night Elf, this is a pretty damn big deal. You pop the potion, you get the effect, and it drops you out of combat. It's basically a get out of jail free card for anyone about to get attacked by a bunch of mobs. The idea is that Blizzard is trying to close the gap between Night Elf players and everyone else in Mythic Plus, where Shadowmeld, of course, right now is one of the strongest racial abilities in the game. I'm not sure how I personally feel about this because this kind of kills the Night Elf racial as a whole, so you all have to let us know what you think about it in the comment section below. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is most of the features we've seen so far in the brand new season, Ghost of Koresh, and it is stacked. We have so many videos coming out testing all this on the PTR 24/7 for you all, so if you're interested in staying up to date, definitely hit subscribe because we're going to be around for a while. I want to hear what you guys are most excited for in the comment section below, so let us hear it. As always, my name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. I will see you in the next one. Peace. One last note we wanted to make: if you're looking for a guild or people to progress through Mythic Plus with or raid with next season, the Comeback Kids are recruiting, and any and all players are welcome to come on down, play with us. We're looking to fill out some new members for the raid. Oh my god, we fucking did it. Oh my god, let's fucking go, bro. Let's fucking go. That's how that shit gets done. If you're on the Horde, you can simply just go to the guild tab and search up the Comeback Kids, and we should pop up. Make sure you do have the guild size on any so you can actually see us. Either way though, if it doesn't work, you just use the Discord link in the comment section below. Hop in there and verify, get yourself in, and then we can get you invited by you posting your name and server under the guild invite tab.